One last question from me. The new polling from both Fox, from the Washington Post, both show you moving slightly ahead. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't really buy it. I just feel like I've been working awful hard. I have 47 days. And, I learned long ago that these things have so many twists and turns. You just got to keep the pedal to the metal. I think the race is going to stay close, and I'm going to give it everything I got over the next 40
You said
seconds.
everyone should pay federal taxes?
I said, David asked me a question, which is, would I be open to a discussion about something broader like that? And I said, sure, I'd be open to. Shouldn't be news that somebody who wants to go into the Senate is willing to start from a position of openness and a dialogue. I've got a track record. When I was governor, we raised the thresholds and took tens of thousands of Virginians, low-income Virginians, off the tax rolls. And that was the right thing to do under those circumstances. But we can't start with non-negotiables. So when my opponent says we have to solve our problems, but we can never consider any new revenue, even $1 for every $10 of cuts, or we can never find $1 of savings on the defense side, you got to start with an openness and not with non-negotiable.
Governor,
So
do you think
that's something that
the way the question was posed to me was, would you be open to the discussion? And the answer was, of course I'd be open to the discussion.
what are your personal views on it?
Now, I had a preferred approach that I discussed up there, which is, let's deal with the issue on that straightforward way first, on the kind of 4 plans, get through the short term, and then long term, we kind of need 2 different strategies. We need an expense cutting strategy. I know how to find targeted reductions. I did it as governor. And then I think we need a comprehensive review of the tax code. And I haven't yet, grappled with the notion of, do we make, people pay tax at this or that level? But look, we're going to have to do a comprehensive review of the tax code. And the question posed was basically that: would you be open to this kind of a discussion? You cannot go into a body like the Senate where we need to solve problems and have a list of non-negotiables or grow enormous pledges before you walk in.
Would you vote to raise the debt limit? You criticized Governor Allen for raising the debt limit. Would you vote to raise the debt limit?
George voted as a senator repeatedly to raise the debt limit. What I criticized was not that. What I criticized was his statement last year, contrary to the Fairfax Chamber, contrary to the U.S. Chamber, contrary to President Obama and John Boehner and Governor McDonnell and Eric Cantor, that we should use this debt limit vote as a leverage to get more of what we want. It was precisely that chicken playing, kind of game of chicken attitude that led to a bond downgrade. And so it was a self-inflicted wound that members of Congress and others inflicted on us by instead of doing the fiscally responsible thing, deciding to play games with the economy. That was the problem last year.
So you might vote to raise the debt ceiling?
Under the right circumstances, sure. Look, there were efforts, when George was in the Senate, there were efforts around debt ceiling increase to couple it with pay-go restrictions, and he voted against the pay-go restrictions. To raise a debt ceiling if it's necessary and to put some conditions in place, of course, that's also, you need to be open to that discussion, all to try to solve a problem. But trying to use it as leverage, boy, we want to get more over on the other side when Americans off, Capitol Hill are waiting for you to do something. That's not the right way to go after it.
But do you think that people of all income levels should be paying some level of federal income tax?
I think that people of all income levels should be paying taxes. I do, and they do. And the thing that was offensive, well, one of the things that was offensive about the comments was the suggestion that just because people don't pay federal income tax, they have a victim mentality, they're freeloaders, and they won't take personal responsibility for their lives. Many people who pay no federal income tax, disabled veterans, seniors, low-income people, they're paying a higher percentage of their income in taxes than Mitt Romney is. And that was what was so offensive about the notion. So before you would jump in and say, well, gosh, there should be a federal income tax payment for everybody, you really need to look at the facts about who's paying which taxes. And frankly, a lot of folks at the lower end of the income scale are paying a lot higher percentage than somebody like me. That has to be factored in.
So it's
Governor, there were a lot of definitive lines drawn in this debate today.
I'm sorry?
I think there were a lot of definitive lines drawn in Santa between you two. Is there any way anybody watches this and doesn't come out with a clear view of which candidate they want?
I think, look, my sense of the undecideds, and I don't know this, but who would be undecided? People know me and they know George Allen. It's likely not to be people who have a strong party ID. I think undecideds are people who are looking for something. And I think what they're looking for is most who can fix what's broken in Washington. Because if we have the perfect ideas, but a D advancing it guarantees no R votes, or an R advancing it means no D votes, or the House passing it means no Senate, or the Senate passing it means no House, then the ideas don't matter. So I think the people who are still looking to make up their mind are trying to find who is the person who would most likely go in and be open to discussion, be willing to listen, be willing to find common ground.
Why do you keep bringing up the name-calling incident? Is that in the past, the whole
I
McCarthy
didn't
thing?
bring it up. Remember, Julie asked, in the 2 debates, we've had 3 debates.
But
It's
you did, okay.
we've had 3 debates. In 2 debates, the question has been posed by a reporter to my opponent. And in both debates, I've said the same thing. First, we're human beings. Look, we're all going to say something that, oh, I should have said this or that better. We're all going to do it. Don't judge us as superhumans. I mean, we're all humans just like anybody else. But the point of it was the notion that, there's a real Virginia or a real America and not. The fact that, we just don't need more division now. And so knocking Democrats' teeth down their whiny throats or, that kind of, we just don't need them. We've got to have bridge builders.
Governor,
And-
What about medical science?
Mr. Allen tried to box you in on some of the proposals that you put
Sure.
forward regarding
Oh, yeah.
Medicare prescription negotiations,
Yeah, let me
regarding letting the higher end Bush era tax cuts expire, regarding big oil subsidies. He specifically said, "Have you done an analysis about what it would mean for jobs?" Has your team done an analysis, or what do you think the impact would be with regards to jobs? His implication being it would result in job losses.
Julian, the best analysis is reality and facts. I mean, and the tax cut, well, let's just focus on the one I think he was really focused on, which was let the Bush tax cuts expire for 500,000. When George Allen was senator, he voted for those tax cuts. The CBO told the Senate, you have to make them temporary, because if you make them permanent, you're going to explode the deficit. It's exactly what's happened. I am proposing to do what George Allen voted for, which is let these tax cuts expire. Now, he is now taking the position, we have to make them all permanent. That's a different position. He didn't take that as senator. I'm taking the position, let them expire over 500,000. And the facts would suggest it's not going to hurt the economy, because the tax cuts for those over 500,000 would go back to where they were when we were in the midst of the longest expansion in our nation's economic history. So knowing that there's a little prehistory around these tax rates, every economist that I've read about the Bush tax cuts suggests that expiration at the top end will not hurt jobs. In fact, it will help us, because suddenly if we do that, the need for the sequester cuts in the short term gets cut in half. And then we make these other 2 moves I mentioned. Now we're talking about manageable savings that we can accomplish without hurting defense, without hammering the Northern Virginia economy. But again, it's specifics. I still don't know what George Allen's plan is with respect to the sequester, other than I'm against it. I want to cut spending, but we can't cut spending. I want to fix our budget, but I won't give you a plan about how to fix the budget. I've put a plan on the table. Each of the 3 elements represents a compromise. The 500,000 is a compromise between Dems at 250 and Republicans that make them all permanent. The Medicare fix acknowledges that both Dems and ours did this Medicare benefit, but goes into one piece of it that both parties voted for and makes an adjustment to save money. Letting the tax breaks expire on oil. There's more tax subsidies to oil companies, the small guys and the startups. Don't let those expire. We want to have them have a vigorous startup culture to help our energy future. But just I think the profit last year of the big 5 oil companies was about $125 billion. They're doing very, very well. To let a $2.5 billion annual tax cut expire makes sense. We're paying at the pump. We don't need to pay in the tax code too.
Last question.
So 3 very
Governor,
distinct
finish it.
compromises.
Medical science.
Very specific. And I waited to hear whether there was anything on the other side.
Governor Allen pounced on your comment, I don't have a transcript,
Yeah.
but that everybody should pay federal taxes. Do you regret saying that?
I think what I said was, when David asked, as a colleague might ask me, look, God willing, I'm hoping to be in the United States Senate. A colleague might ask me sometime, would you be open to consider this? I do not believe you start with I pledged allegiance to Grover Norquist, no tax never. We can't have $1 revenue even for $10 of cuts. We can't find any savings on the defense side. You don't start with the non-negotiables and the pledges. The pledge is your oath of office and a willingness to work and consider. Again, I laid out my preferred approach up on stage. And I also have, as governor, I mean, and I know some of you followed me as governor, some of you are national. I mean, as governor, I raised the thresholds to take tens of thousands of low-income Virginians off the income tax rolls because they were paying percentages in taxes that were sufficient, and it was a tough time. But the opening answer to, hey, could you consider? I think we need people in the Senate who would say yes, and I don't think it should be that newsworthy if a senator is willing to consider what a colleague proposes.
Well, Governor,
Guys, appreciate it.
Yep, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Governor.